So guys, Sumner, I'm going to share with you guys my favorite marketing channels for flipping land and all the juicy numbers that go along with them, okay? Now, for some credibility, we'll share this here. As of January 17th, so far this month, we've got 11 signed contracts on the acquisition side. So far, actually, all of these have come from cold texting. They've all come from one marketing channel. I'll talk about the actual figures that have generated that. But yeah, let's jump into this. Let's go through this. I've never seen a video like this published anywhere. So I want to go through it with you guys. Just stick around. I promise you, you're going to walk away both with understanding what channels you should be using, hopefully when and where you should be using them. I think there's a real sequence as to where you should be slotting these things in at. And hint, it's categorized correctly here. And yeah, maybe some of the pitfalls to avoid. Now, what's cool is a lot of these numbers are actually backed up through real numbers, real figures from the hundreds of folks that have gone through Leah. So obviously I've got the numbers from my own business, but one person's business, well, that could be a fugazi, that could be a fluke, but hundreds of other businesses, all right, that data is pretty damn serious. Now, a Leah member, his name is Matt, super sweet guy, amazing guy. While he joined Leah, he was running a business selling rugs across the US. So he would drive in his van and go and sell rugs and run his business nights, weekends, whenever he could find the time, as he was literally driving across the entire nation selling rugs. In fact, he was nice enough to mail Sarah and I each a rug for our office when we lived in Las Vegas. Matt has done this part freaking time, man. And what's crazy is Matt didn't get his first campaign out until about a year into Leah, both because, well, he was busy. He was juggling a lot, literally driving across the country, but also Matt is methodical. Now, all these numbers I'm going to go through here today, there's a few requirements that I'm going to hit on that you have to meet those requirements for any of these to work. Like literally none of these will work without the requirements being hit. So we'll talk about that here in a second. And when I say that he was methodical, I say that he perfected the strategy that we teach inside of Leah, which are so much of this little niche that we play in, this little world that we've coined inside of Leah, which no one runs the business how we run the business. And that is a God's honest truth. Most of the education out there in land is theory. This is application. What we teach inside of Leah is a black box. It's a business in a box. It's a step-by-step system, but it's a pain in the butt to learn. It's not for everyone. It's dry. It's analytical. It's intensive. It's a heavy lift. And so anyways, it takes a long time to perfect this stuff. And all of those marketing channels that we talk about here today, they pretty much all require some level of skill to run. Some less so than others. I'll talk about that here as well. So Matt sent his first campaign in April 2024. And so from April to the end of 2024, so April to December, he made $140,000 in profit. I won't go through all of this nitty gritty here, but what's interesting is that $140,000 in profit came from 27,000 mailers. That probably cost Matt somewhere in the neighborhood of, let's call it $14,000, $15,000. You pay 52 to 55 cents per letter, 2-page letter. That was spanned across 12 campaigns, and he got 15 signed contracts. However, he had to cancel 2, so he closed on 13 deals. Only 5 have fully sold, okay? So just 5 of the deals that have sold have essentially 10x'd his money, 10x'd his ROAS on his marketing spend. And that's what we think about with all of these marketing channels. We think about ROAS, return on ad spend. That is the health metric for any marketing-based business, which is his, sales and marketing business at its core. And so just from the 5, he's already 10x'd his money. That means that Matt is pretty freaking good at what he does because he's got a remaining, 7 or so to sell. Now, on the flip side, you have someone more advanced like Ben G. Now, Ben's coming up on 18 months in Leah. He's going to make $400,000 in gross profit just this month. It is January 2025. So $400,000 in gross profit this month, 1 month. Insane. Runs his business part-time. He has a full-time job outside of it, has a family, has a life. Unfortunately, he almost lost his house in the fire in LA. Fortunately, he didn't lose his house, but still scary stuff. Now, the reason I shared Ben's note here is because Ben is a seasoned Leah member, okay? Matt is a beginning Leah member, and we take them through a very set sequence of these marketing channels. Ben is using 2 of the marketing channels that we talk about, and that's part of the reason his results are what they are, okay? We'll talk more about that, so please stick around. Do yourself some favor. You're going to make some money because of this video, okay? So the first off is direct mail. Now, you'll see a lot of these figures here. I say 15 to 20,000, 15 to 20,000. Well, that's because those are the kinds of deals that we target. I'm talking about the figures that line up with the Leah model. I don't know what kind of model you're running. If you're buying deals for $1 and selling them for $5, I don't know what the math is going to be on that. Same thing if you're buying multi-million-dollar properties. So I'm assuming you are following the model that we teach, which primarily we pursue deals that are You're going to sell somewhere between $25,000 and $250,000. There are outliers. And we try to double our money. So that's why these numbers look similar. I'm kind of factoring in the Leah math, the Leah model. And the reason that this is cool, the reason that we do this is because this model has the highest concentration of cash buyers, and we can go make $15,000 to $20,000 per deal. Do 2 deals a month. That's a good living. That's a good living. I don't care who you are. Now, of course, we still get big 6-figure deals like Ben shared here. He's doing, buy for 305, sell for 550. So we do get those deals, but the majority of what we do is more in this cohort. And so what's cool is like we're profitable on these deals. It pays for our marketing. We make money. And then every so often, once a month, once a quarter, once a year, it depends on how much marketing you're sending, you get these big windfalls, right? I had a call with my team today. We've got a double close that should be getting signed here, hopefully this week, that we're buying at 1.5 million and we'll sell at 2 million. Double close, no money in the deal. So you get those every so often, but of course they don't show up every day, and we don't exclusively target those because it's a very inefficient business. You have to wait a long time to get paid. So our model says that you need to start with direct mail, okay? I won't go through all the reasons as to why, but all of these channels here require a lot of work. There's a lot of labor that goes into these. And the labor in all of these is all reactive, okay? Say it with me, reactive. Someone texts you, you need to respond. Someone picks up your call, you need to be on the other end, okay? Direct mail is proactive, okay? Proactive, like I'm teaching a 2nd grade class. Proactive as in you do the work when you can. You pull the markets, price your markets, send the mail whenever. You want to do it at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday? Fine by me. It goes out there, it curates the best, most motivated leads and brings them to you. You get less leads, but higher quality leads. The thing with direct mail is there's a hell of a lot of trust built into direct mail, okay? There's been studies done, and I used the wrong little drawing tool. I'm going to highlight this because I love direct mail. That's why we talk about it so much inside of Leah. There's been studies done that go and measure how much trust is associated with different marketing channels. Direct mail consistently has the highest form of trust. That means when someone gets your letter, they trust it more than getting a cold text. When we're dealing with land sellers, we want to have trust. There's a reason credit card companies send out so much direct mail because there's so much trust instilled in it, okay? And so I like direct mail because it brings in a low quantity of leads, but very high quality leads. Now, if you're following the Leah model, really important, you should be targeting numbers that look like this: 2,500 to 3,500 letters per deal, with the average deal making you $15,000 to $20,000 in gross profit. That equals at least a 10x ROAS. Now, the thing with direct mail, the downside of direct mail is it's very slow. You might be saying, Sumner, I'm inside of Leah and I sent my mailer 1 month ago and I haven't made 10x ROAS. Expect it to be about a year to see the fully weighted effect of your mailers, okay? You'll probably get your money back from the mailer within 90 to 180 days, okay? So now your money's been recouped, but the rest of the profit is a slow drip. Even if you buy a bunch of deals early, those deals might not sell for a few months, right? And they might have a 30-day closing. So getting that money back in the business takes time to see the fully weighted effect of mail. The other thing is, because mail is physical, people literally keep your letters. Every year I get calls from people that got a letter from me 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, and we do those deals. So there's a real slow burn, a real long tail effect to direct mail. And that's a beautiful thing that it possesses that really no other channel possesses. Now, the problem with direct mail, like all of these, is it takes a high level of skill to see these numbers. If you watch this video and you say, well, I think I can go and send some mail and get these numbers, you won't. You'll get steamrolled. You'll probably get nothing. And that's a fact. It's not easy. And that's why for most Leah members, I'm not joking, it takes, if you're fast, maybe 3 months to kind of crack the code and have like that light bulb moment, like, okay, it makes sense. Some people it's 6 months, some people it's a year. I mean, look at Matt's case, right? I mean, it took him a while to put rubber to the road because it is complex to be good at this stuff, right? If it was easy, there would be no arbitrage there. We're playing the arbitrage game. And so since there's a barrier to entry in terms of skill, and most people aren't willing to pay that price, well, there's more for us that are willing to put in the work and willing to get educated. So if you do it correctly, which doing it correctly means aggregating the right data in the right markets with the right way to break down pricing and create accurate offers to owners. It means scrubbing your data, flood zones, wetlands, landlocked properties, weird shaped properties, bad properties, removing 30 to 50% of all your data because it stinks. And on top of that, it means being able to go and create offers that are reasonable. Some of these land educators say you should offer 10 cents on the dollar. No one is going to sell you a valuable piece of land at 10 cents on the dollar. It won't work. It doesn't work, right? So you got to create the right kind of offer for the right price point. Different price points need different offer percentages. You need the right copy on your letter. You need the right design on your letter. And all of these strategies these will not work unless you have an amazing acquisition process, okay? So literally none of this stuff works without it. Now, that's another video. We can save that for another day. But you could be doing all this stuff right that I just talked about, but if your acquisition process isn't airtight, you won't see these numbers. So obviously acquisitions plays a big role and getting these kinds of outcomes, okay? One of the big things too, and I'll sidestep these additional 3 marketing channels for 1 second. One of the other things that we have to get right for all of this stuff to work, and I'm going to switch over tabs, you need high quality data, okay? There are data platforms out there, I won't name any names, but there's like very low cost data platforms that don't have good data, okay? They have outdated data that's not getting refreshed frequently. And so I've seen it where 5, 10, 15, 20% of your data is wrong. The person sold recently, but it hasn't updated. Sometimes they mislabel the property. So you're going after someone that you think owns a 5 acre, but they own a 50 acre. So you want to make sure that you're going after a good data provider. All of this stuff, the backbone of it is data, right? So you need good data. And since we're going to be scrubbing our data, you need a data provider that's affordable. Okay. If you're paying a boatload of money for your data, just to then to go remove 50% of it, that kind of stinks. Now, there's 2 main ways to scrub your data. You can do it for free inside a data tree, which is what we used to teach. You go through, you manually scrub them out, and then you export them, and you only get billed on the ones that you actually have left into the data set. The problem there is you definitely pay a premium for the data. The data quality is good, but on top of that, it's a lot of work. It might take you 3 hours per 1,000 records to manually scrub them, and you're missing certain overlays. So you don't have like wetlands overlays and things like that. Obviously, we use Land Insights, which is the tool that we made for our data. It's got data that comes from First American, so same quality data. A la carte, it's 5 cents a record for anyone that's on the platform. Or you can get unlimited data, and that's true unlimited data, not fake unlimited data. You could pull 1 million records a year if you want to. In fact, we had someone pull 11 million records on the platform, which just breaks my brain, and it's $4,500 a year. Okay. On top of that, we need to be using the right kind of filtration on our data. I won't go through all of that here, but we need to be using the right kind of filters to whittle down our data so there's no waste in the system. If you have bad quality data, you have the wrong filters, and you're not scrubbing your data, you won't see numbers like this. There's too much waste in that system, okay? Next, and again, this is kind of in like the logical sequence. So usually someone's inside of Leah for 12 to 24 months, and then they're gonna add on cold texting. And there's a whole sequence that we go through. There's a hiring process that you need to go through for this to all make sense. At this point, you need a team. I won't go through all those team members, but you need a team. What I will talk about is you do need a cold texter, okay? A cold texter will probably run you anywhere between $1,500 to $2,500 a month, okay? So there's the cost of the plan, and there's the cold texter. Now, with cold calling, cold texting, cold email, you might pull 100,000 records. Then you might go and scrub your data and have 50,000 records. Then out of that 50,000 records, you might then only have 30,000 that have phone numbers, okay? My sincerest apologies. I had to take a quick break. I had 2 German Shepherds break into my front yard and were terrorizing my poor little English bulldog, Gloria. So back to it. Yeah, all of these require phone numbers or emails in this case. Not all of them are going to have phone numbers and emails. So what I'm trying to say is you need a lot of data. Now, at this point, when you get into the cold texting world, it really makes sense to get an unlimited data plan, okay? You can get one through Land Insights. You can use something like Land Vision. I don't know what their prices are, 5 figures. I don't know. The plans are all over the place, but you need unlimited data because it becomes very expensive. You are chewing through data. I know land investors that are pulling 1 million plus records a month. That would be insanity if you're paying for that, right? You've got to get an unlimited data plan once you kind of move into this area. Now, what we see through cold text is 10 to 15,000 texts per deal. And then obviously our gross profit numbers are pretty similar. Now, ironically, for our month so far in January, our numbers are at 4,000 texts per deal. Kind of insane, right? Now, that could be a fluke. I don't know. We are spending a ton of time improving this, our acquisition process, which of course brings this down. So we're getting better and better, literally like week after week, month after month. So some of it's the efficiencies that we've gained through improving our acquisition process. We've gained some efficiencies with whittling down our data and having less bad data within our marketing channels. So I don't know if we'll maintain that, but for the average cold texter, 10 to 15,000 texts per deal. Now I say average, but I mean someone that's doing it right. I've seen folks that have given up on texting because they can't make the numbers work. I've seen folks that get one deal per 50,000 texts. Texting, just like direct mail, is a skill of its own. It's a very different skill, but you need a very skillful cold texter, just like you need a skillful cold caller. These people need to be good. They need to be selected correctly and trained correctly. So you can't just go hire any old person and throw them in there. You also need the right texting processes. There's a very specific way that we do texting. And that's why we're actually releasing this year our Leah Marketing Blueprint program, which teaches you our cold texting model. And inside that program, we'll build out the texting system for you and place a cold texter within your business. And it's going to be coached by Michael Bull, who's one of our coaches inside of Leah. Super small, tight groups, like it'll be like 10 to 15 people at a time. But there's a very specific way to run it. And honestly, most people aren't running it correctly. Now, the other thing with cold texting, and really all three of these channels, is you're going to need to generate a boatload of comps, okay? Our team comps literally hundreds of properties a day because we're not pricing them on the front end typically like you would with direct mail. So like we get the person that responds, they're like, yeah, Sumner, I want to sell my property. And like my texting team off the rip has to comp it, underwrite it, DD it, and give them an offer on the property or a range offer. And that's why we have our comping tool in Land Insights. Now we've had this for over a year. We haven't publicly released it yet. So it's not available. It's coming out this quarter. You can see it hidden here. Only we have access to it. But this has changed the game. We're comping deals in 2 to 5 minutes now, which makes this process a lot more sustainable. Where before it was taking us 15 to 20 minutes per deal that we were underwriting. And so we were only sending out 20,000, 40,000 texts a month, and we've been able to grow past over 100,000 texts a month. Really all is a byproduct of that comping tool. So yeah, you need someone that's conversational. You need someone that knows how to ask the right DD and pre-qualifying questions. You need someone that can comp and underwrite deals very quickly to provide an accurate range offer. You need very fast speed to lead. So it has to be a very conversational pace. You can't have messages that sit for days. You need the right kind of drip cadences that you're using, obviously the right messaging that goes out in the initial cold text. So very much still a skill game here. I think that cold texting is the best marketing channel for those that have a team, okay? Team is a big part of it. It's probably the worst marketing channel if you don't have a team, but if you have the right team internally, ops manager, acquisition manager, cold texter, data person, really, there's just nothing quite as good as it. I mean, these numbers, while the number is higher, the cost to get these touches out is cheaper than direct mail. Now, we do have to whittle through a lot of nonsense, so you do have more acquisition work. The conversion's a lot lower there. Like you might get 10 leads from direct mail and close one of them. We might close one person per 50 leads through cold texting. So there's definitely a lot more grunt work, a lot more just labor. Just like, frankly, there's just more labor that goes into it. But the cost for first touch is so cheap. And so what happens is you start with direct mail, then you bolt on cold texting, then you flip these, where now cold texting is at the top. And then we have a place where we funnel in certain people to go into a direct mail campaigns, okay? Now, next is cold calling, okay? This is kind of like once we start moving into what I call the icing on the cake channels. Now, I really kind of bolt these things in together, and you could really add them at the same time because I don't think these are good standalone marketing channels, personally. Some people might counter me on that, but I don't think that I know they're not my favorite standalones. These are great standalone channels. These are great icing on the cake channels. So what happens is once you're running this system, this kind of like Leah Marketing Blueprint system that we talk about here, you're pulling 200, 300, 400,000 records a month, pre-scrubbed, right? And you might be marketing 100,000 people a month or something like that. So there's a lot of data moving through your business. You might as well recycle that data with some of these icing on the cake channels. Now, I've found that these are a lot more inconsistent for me. I've also found that cold calling has a much higher skill barrier. Much higher than even cold texting. The problem with cold calling is that most people want to do one of two things. One, they want to hire either the cheapest in-house cold caller. They're $1,000 a month, but they suck. Or they want to use a cold call agency and it's $4,000 or $6,000 a month. And that person might be a little bit better. They're a little more well-trained, but the irony is that person's still only getting paid $100 a month, right? So like the real alpha, in my opinion, is either don't use an agency, take that money and like just spend it on a high quality person. Like if you could find a killer cold caller and pay him like $3,000 a month, that's just a beast on the phones, and maybe they're even US based. I think it could become very consistent. I don't see anyone doing that. The reason I say that is I went through a stint a few years ago where I was cold calling, and I actually hired Rylan on to cold call with me. And within like 2,000 or 3,000 records, we got 2 deals. You can see that's a far cry from 20,000 calls per deal, right? Far cry. Now I'm US based. I can talk the land game. I'm good on the phones. if you could find someone like that and pay them 3, 5, 6 grand a month even, I think your results would be bananas. Now, turnover is probably high in this role. It's kind of a pain in the butt. Obviously, it's not an easy role to be in, but I think that's an interesting concept. Regardless, if you're using like a cold call agency using overseas talent, or you're using just your own overseas talent, again, expect 20,000 cold calls per deal. It's lumpy and you can definitely land some big fish. I've seen 6-figure deals get pulled from cold calling. One thing that's interesting is you could like channel your cold calling to where you're only going after high fidelity deals, like high value deals. Because one cold caller can make about 20,000 cold calls a month. Okay, that's kind of the math on it with like a triple line dialer. And so if you just reorientated that to go after big deals, maybe there's a move there. Or you just go after very motivated lists, tax delinquent lists, title problem lists, whatever it may be. That could be an interesting play that I don't see very many people doing. So kind of an interesting idea. Now, cold email is very much the same. It's cheaper than cold calling in most cases. It's much harder to set up and it takes a whole lot less skill. In fact, I would say cold email takes the least amount of skill out of any of these marketing channels. It's probably the most inconsistent, okay? It also probably requires the most data because only like a third of your skip traces are going to have emails. So you need a crap ton of data to hit 20 to 30,000 emails per month, which is like, that's pretty normal for an in-house team to be able to do. That's probably the upper echelon of like what a one-person in-house team could do. And that will cost you, I don't know, $1,000, $2,000 a month, something like that. Spreads are pretty much the same. Like it's pretty much across the board. A little more inconsistent, a little lumpier. There's definitely like low quality skip trace data. So you can get like a lot of bounced emails or bad emails. So you can go through markets that just suck for cold email and it's very lumpy. I think cold email makes sense once you've gone through and you have like hundreds of thousands or like millions of data points that are sitting in your CRM. And if you just start sending out 20 to 30,000 cold emails per month, like I guarantee you'll make a couple 6 figures this year doing that, like for sure. Wouldn't bank on this as your main thing, but if you've got a lot of data, it's not a bad idea and it's pretty easy to run and you don't get that many responses. And a lot of people actually are like down to do a deal through email. Like they're very easy deals to close. And this is probably the most unsaturated channel. So you're touching people that are getting no love anywhere else. So it feels very similar like what cold calling used to feel like back in like 2020, 2021, or cold texting, my bad, I'm getting my words jumbled up. This is what cold texting used to feel like, where it's like, wow, I've never thought about selling. I thought this is a crazy idea. The interesting thing is with all these channels, you definitely are reaching a different demographic, a different kind of person. And so really the holy grail is to eventually marry all these together. And what you're doing is you're penetrating your list to the deepest extent. You are getting the most value from the data. You're getting the data once and extracting the most amount of value from it. And you're touching every kind of cohort or demographic out there. And so I think it exposes you to a lot. Well, I just went buck wild with that. It exposes you to a lot, little Van Gogh there, a lot more opportunity. You also get some omnipresence, so you'll definitely get some overlap with like, hey, I got a piece of direct mail from you. I'm actually like that. It builds trust, right? Long story short, I don't need to talk about omnipresence here. Now, for these bottom 3 here to work, you also need amazing skip tracing. So if you're using like low budget skip tracing, it doesn't make sense. You need up-to-date phone numbers. You need multiple phone numbers. You need to know if it's a landline. And ideally, you also want to be skip tracing to get their email. Even if you're not emailing today, start aggregating those emails because you might want to email them a year or 2 from now, and I want to have all those emails. So inside of Land Insights, we've got our skip tracing inside of here, and we have a premium skip trace that you can use, and that's super nifty. I believe it's 6 cents per skip. It gives you everything, all the phone numbers, landlines, mobile phones, relatives, emails, whole 9 yards. And I would recommend paying up for a premium skip trace because A, the data is going to be better today. You'll get more responses and you'll have this war chest of data to market to eventually. And especially as you start cold calling, you might want to rotate those numbers, cold call relatives to get in touch with people, cold call landlines, where you're not going to be doing that with cold texting. So my recommendation is today, start spending up for high quality skip tracing, even if you're not maximizing all you can get from it right now, because it will certainly catch up to you. So that's it. That's the holy grail of marketing. Could you send a carrier pigeon to people or door knock them? Sure. But this is really all you need to build a giant land investing business. Cheers.